Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Ryan Wayland. So, buddy, I don't think I've ever asked you this, or maybe I have. I don't know, like on camera at least. But what have you been watching right now?
Okay, so like last week, I just finished BoJack Horseman, which is incredible, of course. And now I wanted to keep with, sometimes you just want to just watch something animated, like I like animation, I like cartoons, whatever. So I just started like a week or so ago watching the Venture Bros. And it's rad. I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna do after Venture Bros. I still have a while. I'm only in the middle of season 2 right now, so got a minute, but maybe afterward I'll try Archer. I've tried Archer 6 or 7 times, and I just need to just like let it just run, and then,
Or you could keep with the Adult Swim theme and do like Metalocalypse or
sure.
Aqua Teen.
Yeah, I could do Aqua Teen. I could do Squidbillies or
oh my god,
Steel Lab or Harvey Birdman. Yeah, I mean there's
so many good dude. I'm sure I've mentioned it on the show before. I love the Venture Brothers so much. It's so funny. It's so good. I think they nailed the voice cast. I mean, Patrick Warburton's fantastic in everything. He really shines in voice acting, which is strange because I think he's a really good actor, period. But like his voice acting, amazing.
Yeah.
And as Brock Sampson, so you're middle of season 2.
Yep.
So Hank and Dean have been their clones have been redone. Spoilers, everyone. Have you gotten to the episode where the Monarch is meeting Dr. Ex-Girlfriend and the Phantom Limb in a diner?
Yeah.
Okay. And like Brock is like going through each stall, like, we're the boys, Monarch. And I just love the like the Monarch's like, it's not me, okay? And he's like, don't move. And he crawls under the next stall, and the Monarch's like, nice ass, Samson. Dude, it's so good, man. It's so good. I can't recommend that show enough. And also, as I've told you, and I guess I'm telling our audience, if anyone chooses to watch it, the pilot is rough, just because the animation isn't as smooth. And again, like we were talking about off mic, I think that was the point, because this is supposed to be sort of a parody on Johnny Quest and those kind of cartoons from the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. So the animation's not as smooth. It's really kind of choppy. But then you get to the very next episode and the animation is significantly better.
Yeah.
And then of course, as now where you are in season 2, this animation is so smooth.
Characters are fleshed out pretty much. Story progresses, things change, and then they stick around. So I mean, there's continuity, which is cool, which I appreciate. I also like that they don't wear Brock doesn't wear the same thing every episode. Like he'll have different shirts on or whatever. That's in animation. That's unusual. So I like it.
Yeah. Well, I did just recently hear this. So Jackson Publique, which isn't his real name. I don't know his real name. And Doc Hammer, the co-creators of the show, Doc Hammer voices Dr. Girlfriend. Apparently they've said that each season isn't in chronological order, which means that like we're just seeing kind of like a normal episodic. We're just seeing their lives just this like week, but apparently there is a chronological order in which events happen. They've just kind of done them out of order.
That's interesting.
Now that is interesting, but I choose to believe that maybe they're just messing with us.
Maybe.
And that kind of like with what I said last week about Adventure Time, they chose which episodes they wanted to have continuity carry over,
Mhm.
and the other ones are just kind of like one-off episodes.
Sure.
I don't know, but it's still great. And the movie is fantastic. I'm sad that we'll never get another Venture Brothers thing ever, but the movie's great. The movie, honestly, the movie answers one really big question and then gives us like 5 others. Like, but of course, they're done.
Mhm.
They got canceled after season 7, and so they're like, well, we'll end it with the movie,
Yeah.
and then that'll be it. And it's just,
I know. That's tough.
I want more.
And that's how I'll feel when I'm done.
So I'm sure you will, dude, because
Yeah.
it's, especially when you get to season 7, dude. Season 7 is so off the rails. It's so good. Clancy Brown comes into the
I
picture
do love Clancy Brown.
as the Red Death, which is his character's like it's so funny. But anyway, no, I wanted to ask, man, what you've been watching, because I've been all over the place. Like, since you told me you've been watching Venture Brothers, I've been rewatching the Venture Brothers again. But I've also been I've been watching Adventure Time. I need to jump back into Penguin. I'm so far behind.
I'm very far behind on the Penguin. I love it. I think it's amazing. But sometimes I'm just like, I only get an hour for lunch, and the episodes are an hour long. It's like, I can do like 2.5, 3 episodes of Venture Brothers, or I could do 1 episode of Penguin. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, same. I saw that first episode and I was like, dude, I'm on board. Let's do this. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the show's almost over too. There's only like
I think
10 episodes.
It's almost over. So
yeah, but yeah, I've just been all over the place. I haven't really dedicated like one show yet. I should probably, honestly, what I should probably do is I should probably finally finish Frasier, because I think that's the longest, the show I'm in deeper than the rest of these shows. So I might do that. Might finally finish Frasier.
Okay. Frasier.
I'm telling you, man, you would love that. I
doubt.
I think,
but I mean, maybe, I don't know.
But don't you like Cheers? I feel like you've told me you like Cheers.
Yeah, I like Cheers.
Well, with that being said, welcome back, everyone. So Jeremy, today's episode, I know we usually save this for after we announce the title, but I'm going to ask you now.
Okay.
How did you feel about this movie, considering it was a first watch for both of us?
So, I would say, well, let's introduce the film and then I'll say. And you're eating ice.
Sorry. Yeah, I took a sip. Took a sip of my water. Today's episode was my pick, and we were doing I don't remember the year, and I'm not going to look it up. We were doing the French film La Samouraï, from Jean-Pierre Melville, I believe is how his name's. Yeah, Melville. Yep. Jean-Pierre Melville, starring Alain Delon. But again, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce his name. I picked this one for this season just because, having heard about it from, I want to say at least 2 or 3 Criterion in the Closet videos, I'm like, I got to check this movie out.
Yeah.
And when I read Criterion's blurb about it, about a French contract killer with samurai instincts, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And I was not disappointed. Yeah. It was very cool.
Yeah, I heard about it through Cinefix years and years ago, and probably like a list of like greatest crime films or something. And yeah, they introduced it as it's like the coolest movie, one of the coolest movies ever made. And yeah, they're absolutely right. This was so cool. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I wanted to get your impression on it, just because, again, it was a first watch for
Yeah.
the both of us. So with that being said, everyone, here's our brief little synopsis. And I'm going to go ahead and recognize the elephant in the room. It may sound a little familiar because we did a movie like similar to this not too long ago.
Yeah.
So The Samurai follows Jeff Costello, who is a contract killer, and the movie centers around him going on a hit. But just like our movie we did earlier this season, The Killer, we get to see Jeff's process, his modus operandi, if you will, and how he's always calm, cool, collected, like a samurai. We see him create an airtight alibi with his girlfriend, and then with I'm assuming, since we don't really know who they are, I'm assuming these guys are also contract killers, or at least in the industry, playing poker in a hotel room that they've rented for the night. We see him carry out his hit, but what kind of throws this all for a loop is he's seen by not one, not two, not three, not four, but at least 6 people after the hit. And so now the movie kind of turns into a game of cat and mouse of him trying to outwit the police, but also figure out who set this hit up, and why it seems like now they want him dead, and trying to figure out and unravel this mystery. And that's The Samurai. I yada yada it over a lot of stuff, but yeah, man. So again, recognizing the elephant in the room, I can see why this would be a huge inspiration for the graphic novel, and then of course Fincher for The Killer.
Yeah.
Because yeah, dude, it's so cool seeing.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge influence for a lot of films, because we see this trope in like modern neo-noirs like Drive, The Killer, even
John Woo's The Killer.
Even movies like Leon the Professional or Taxi Driver, and like we now have to like retroactively look at this film and say like, okay, well, it seems cliche by our standards because so many films have ripped it off. So this film is actually extremely innovative. And I think the most impressive part about the film is its lack of action sequences. It builds tension in other ways. I think Roger Ebert, in his review of the film, said that action is the enemy of tension. Tension is broken with action, but if you pull back the action, the tension never goes away, and so you're always so tense. You're always on edge. You're always in suspense of what's going to happen next, and that's really fascinating, and that's really interesting, and that's a cool way to make a movie. Showing Paris as a dark, dingy place, not really shooting it during the daytime, focusing more on nighttime or indoors, is also a meticulous a meticulous choice by the filmmakers. And Jesus, I mean, is there anyone cooler than Jeff Costello? No. When he gets in that guy's car and pulls out the ring of keys and just one at a time just starts, without looking, tries to find one that fits the car. I mean, what are we doing? I would have never thought of that. And as long as he is in control, as long as he keeps his cool, as long as he doesn't draw too much attention to himself, no one's going to stop him. And that's sort of the key to his whole process. It's just remain calm. And the
Yeah.
confidence that this man has is insane. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Speaking of that key scene, man, when I was like, wait, is he doing what I think he's doing? Um, and when he successfully pulls it off, and you're right, he's not looking he's not looking at the keys, but he's looking at his surroundings because he knows he's got a constable coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And he manages to find the key and pulls away. I literally paused the movie and I was like, that was so fucking cool. Because you're right, yeah, as long as he's cool and calm, he's at his best. We do get to see what he looks like when he's frazzled, but we'll get there. I also want to point out that in the first 10 minutes of this movie, there's no dialogue. And I thought that was so cool. I genuinely thought he wasn't going to talk. Like, I thought the whole movie he was going to be quiet. Until, of course, he starts the process of making his alibi with his girlfriend. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Well,
but yeah,
she's a prostitute, but yeah.
Well, and in real life, they were married.
That's correct.
Well, I think I said last week this was 67.
This is 67.
They were only married. Yeah, they were only married for 2 more years, and then they got a divorce. But anyway, yeah, I love that even when he goes to his guy to get fake license plates put on the car he just stole, he doesn't say anything, and the guy knows what to give him.
Yeah,
give him papers, and I love that Jeff also sort of commands this presence, that the guy's also supposed to give him a gun.
Yeah,
but the guy's not giving him it, and he snaps his fingers like, come on, you know what I need. And I love that in these 10 minutes, the filmmakers are already showing Jeff as sort of this force to be reckoned with.
Well, even in the very, very beginning, when the credits are rolling, the opening title sequence, he's just laying in bed smoking. He's not even in the middle of the frame. He's off to the side in the shadows in this dimly lit room. It's very foreboding. It's very menacing in a way. Or you could read it as, he's being very contemplative, and he's being very, introspective, or he is, almost doing some sort of meditation ritual in a way. Because again, he is supposed to emulate the ideas of a samurai, which is, where Melville is getting all of his inspiration. Well, that and 1940s film noir American films. And I was okay. So when I started the movie, I was like, "Oh man, I hope I understand what's going on." That's always my fear with like a critically acclaimed foreign film. I'm always afraid I'm not going to get it. I'm always afraid I'm going to miss something. I'm not going to read fast enough, and like I'm going to get lost. The beauty of this film is its simplicity. It is very straightforward, and what's so remarkable about the film is its presentation. Its ability to take its time. I think Melville is a master of portraying process and have it be exciting. I think him in the police station was riveting. And
oh yeah.
And really, we're just showing the process of trying to identify someone through eyewitnesses, and through testimony. And that sounds kind of boring when you say it out loud, but once you see it, you're like, I get it, because like it's happening in such a rhythm, and we are really intrigued about, oh, all of these people really did see him. So it's not like, we know as an audience that they can get him because, I mean, first off, I thought he was going to change his clothes. All right. To me, I live in the future. And so to me, a fedora and a tan trench coat stands out. So I'm like, dude, they got him. I mean, as soon as he grabbed the stuff off the bed in the hotel room, I go, you're not going to grab someone else's jacket? Are you out of your mind? It's like, and
I thought the same thing,
did you?
dude.
Okay.
Yeah, because we, the audience, know, because the commissioner says, he was young with a fedora and a tan trench coat. Yeah, and when he picks them up, I was like,
No.
Jeff. Yeah, well, it kind of goes back to what you were saying about tension. Because I was tense that whole scene. I was like, dude, they got him. I'm like, this movie's an hour and 45 minutes. They got him. Like, and we're only 20 minutes in. What are we gonna do?
Well, what's going on?
And and you're right, dude. It was just so tense, especially when they have him step up. I was like, man, they got him. They got him.
And yet, it plays with the idea of eyewitness testimony, which is, not very reliable. And so the innocent people, I will call them, were sort of back and forth. Like they were like, I don't know, maybe, who knows? But then the pianist, who she'll become extremely important, flat out says, no, that's not him. And we know for a fact she knows that's him. And so now something nefarious is going on, something weird. What could it be? And obviously someone does not want him at that police station. And doesn't want him to get caught. But then I thought I did kind of like it was sort of funny that the I guess her husband, or Jane's husband, boyfriend, other John, I don't know, mentioned that he wasn't very observant, yet he just pieced him together. He goes, he was wearing that hat, he was wearing that coat, and he had that face. And the commissioner goes, I hate to see what you'd look like if you were observant. Like imagine if you were, because that was exactly right. Never brought up again. That guy could be a full blown like police detective, and is like, all right, you're free to go. That was weird. But yeah, I really liked that. They sort of disorient you in the police station by going from room to room. Rooms have multiple entries and exits, and so like we're going in one door but out the other, and then we're in another hallway, and then we're over here, and it was cool because again, that commissioner, I really enjoyed his performance. He, is sort of like Costello. He's just a good guy, he's just doing due process, but it seems they seem to mirror one another. In their meticulous process, and their intelligence seems to shine through.
Yeah, real Sherlock and Moriarty kind of situation.
Sure.
where in this sense, the contract killer that we're following is Moriarty. But yeah, so yeah, I was like, what are we doing? We still have an hour to go, and but then you're right, when the pianist lies to get him out of the police station, I was like, all right, something's up.
Yeah.
And and again, I really like what you said about how they shot Paris, because I feel like as Americans, we have a very sort of like romanticized version of Paris. There are other films out there that show Paris as very beautiful, which I'm sure it is a very beautiful country or city in a country. I've never been to Paris. I would love to go to Paris. That'd be awesome. But I like what you said about it making Paris seem really dingy, very lived in, kind of like, to use, a term for like an American neo-noir film, like the underbelly of Paris. And I really like that also, sort of like an American neo-noir film, these dealings are happening in broad daylight, like when Jeff thinks he's going to get paid out for the hit, but he gets into gunfight with that other hitman.
Yeah.
Like in just broad daylight,
Yeah, it did seem like I saw something or read something today that was talking about the way that, France is being represented as sort of, devoid of humanity, to reflect those that surround Costello. Costello is also void of humanity. Costello is just the professional. He is, nothing brings him satisfaction. Killing that guy at the club did not bring him satisfaction. Getting paid doesn't give him satisfaction. Nothing really does. He's just, a lone wolf for hire. Seemingly.
Yeah. I did start to pick up on that. I was like, he didn't, he saw killing that guy as just sort of, well, it's my job.
Right.
This is what I was hired to do. I'm going to do it. To take, to do like a modern example of a contract killer. Don't judge me, but this is just the first example that popped in my head.
We'll see.
John Wick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's all right.
John, where he doesn't get a lot of satisfaction out of, killing people left and right. There are a few times where he has enjoyed it, especially I would say in the first film, killing the guy that killed his dog,
sure.
And then killing that guy's dad, because he killed Willem Dafoe. But yeah, I didn't realize that till about halfway through, where Jeff really just, it's a job. I'm going to do the job. There we go. And I can see again where the author of the Killer graphic novel definitely probably took some inspiration from this, because as we discussed in that episode, that he doesn't try to get emotion involved when he's carrying out these hits or in general.
Right.
And yeah, I find it very interesting, that he's cold, calculated, but also calm.
Yeah.
And cool at the same time.
Yeah, like he seems to just have little to no emotion about anything. I do like that he has one, I think, shred of humanity in a way, and that's his bird. I like that he cares for a bird, not a human thing, but a living being. He has something that he cares for. And I think the bird senses that and can warn him of danger, which I really like. that Costello was around the bird so much because he's inside all the time, and he seems to like not leave his apartment unless he absolutely has to. That he knows when the bird is acting
distressed. Yeah, I thought that was a really cool detail that like the bird, the bird's agitated because someone else was in its home. But Jeff is like, it's molting a little bit.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
Right.
And, and I think it's twofold. I think one, I agree with you that he does care for this bird and probably somewhere deep down loves the bird. And then two, I think he does also is kind of like a home security system. Yeah. Like, since it's almost like Jeff himself is sort of animalistic, so he knows when something's wrong with the bird.
He is. I think
but again, also
that opening quote in the beginning, it refers to him as a tiger in a jungle. I agree. I think he is very animalistic in the way that he conducts himself and the way that he is. I would argue also that he does show a lot of humanity at the end of the film as well, um,
I agree.
by really
I agree.
protecting Jane, um, so she's safe, and so she's no longer wrapped up in any of it, whether it be the cops or
Mm-hmm.
this crime syndicate of sorts, um, which I liked and was surprising. But before we get there, so okay, so we talked about the police station. When Costello gets shot, okay. Again, this is where this film is sort of different from others and is setting a standard that people will not follow. Is again sitting with moments. I think that him dressing his wound, um,
Mm-hmm.
when he first gets back to his apartment after he was shot, um, it was meticulous, and I think sort of it drug on a bit, but I didn't even notice. I think I noticed when he was about done. I'll go, oh, we're still watching him do this. I don't know, you know. It it's sort of like I think the Coen brothers may have taken um, some ideas from that when they did No Country for Old Men, showing especially Anton Chigurh, doing his whole home remedy thing, with the buckshot and with like the hooking the coffee mug up to electronic things so it can boil, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, no, I enjoyed that. I feel like in another movie I would have been bored by that, but I was fascinated by it for some reason.
Well, and I think it's because Jeff is so, again, like we've been saying, emotionless. I think this would be something that like you or I, if we got shot, we would be showing a lot of emotion. But he is just so calm as he's dressing it, cleaning it, and I think that's why. Because even I was like, wow, like I was
Yeah,
so
I
engaged.
know.
Um,
Yeah,
and again, I think it's because we're seeing someone who should be reacting to have gotten shot. And I mean, he does kind of react when he gets home, but he's not. He's not like, oh my god, I gotta. He's just calm, cleans the wound, dresses it, takes himself a nap, gets up, cleans it
yeah.
again, and then he's good.
I think what we're seeing, um, is something that is extremely realistic that we don't pick up on when we watch films, which is people don't talk
Mhm.
out loud at home. Um, if they're alone, like I'm not talking to myself. Like I'll be thinking to myself maybe, but not out loud, you know? And so like
I'm going to the sink
yeah, we're
now.
so used to people in film talking to themselves out loud so we understand what's going on, or where, it's adding extra emotion, blah blah blah. Um but yeah, I don't think people really do that. Um if I got hurt or whatever, yeah, I'd be like crying or whatever, but I wouldn't be like talking to myself.
That's not what I thought you'd say. I thought you were about to say I'd be screaming to
Nah,
myself, but
I'd be crying for sure. I mean,
just crying. Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree, and I think again that's what makes it so engaging is that he's not like he's not like who was that on the bridge, like why are they trying to kill me while he's cleaning it, he's just
right, and he's not like talking to the bird or anything, like like some films will have characters talk to animals like in their house, like their pets or whatever, for expositional purposes, but I like
Mhm.
that we didn't do that. And it also matters and makes a difference because the only way they get him to say something out loud, to record what he's saying, is he has to call someone. And so that's why when the pianist is like, in 2 hours, call me and we'll talk. And it's, which is weird,
Mhm.
but maybe, maybe Costello's like, okay, well, she doesn't want to be seen in the same room together, talking about some of the stuff because it's incriminating. So if we're both at home talking on the phone, it's not as incriminating, blah, blah, blah. But then you start to think about it, and then he obviously starts to think about it when he starts dialing. It's like, why does she want me to call? That's so weird, and that's unusual. And so then he's like, oh, someone's probably recording in here, needing me to talk out loud. And so again, I like this part of what I'm going to call realism, which is people don't speak to themselves at home. And so, and so they needed him to make a phone call to get, recorded confessions or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and, it's so good because, in other movies where, they bugged like the house or the phone or something like that, the antagonist or protagonist, or whoever, they're the person who is being bugged, like we've been saying, is talking to themselves or talking to an inanimate object or something. So yeah, it makes sense that that he wouldn't talk at home. And I'm glad you mentioned the pianist telling him to call her. It's our first clue that she might be up to something too.
Yeah.
Because you're right, like, and as the film shows us, he's like, wait, why does she want me to call her?
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't she have just told me right then and there? And I like that it seems like I have a lot of questions about her before I finish that thought. So, okay. I'm not really jumping ahead or anything, but I just want to go ahead and get your opinion on the pianist because she is such a fascinating character. Because again, as you mentioned earlier, we know, the audience, we know that she knows that's him. She knows that's the guy that killed the club owner because she's the only one who actually saw him eye to eye. Do you think that she's the one who put the hit out, or do you think she's kind of in bed with this organization?
No, I think she's just in with the organization. I don't think that she had anything to do with the hit, but I could be wrong. But I don't think so. I think that she somehow is in cahoots with the people that put on the hit. She saw him, and I think the whole idea was for her to see him. I think that because the deal was, and they say this multiple times, the deal was do it and get out clean. You didn't get out clean. I think she knew what was going to go down, and so she knew when he was going to be back there. She knew to walk down that hallway at that exact moment because he needed to be seen for the deal to be off, or he needed to be seen so they had an excuse to get rid of him.
I mean, that makes sense. It is sort of, again, to use the killer again as the example, it is sort of like what happens with the killer, which is, the guy who put out the hit is the one who, he didn't understand really what he was agreeing to. Yeah. Just that to clean the mess up. And now, obviously, that's not the case for this film. He knew what he was, Jeff knew what he was getting into. I do like what you said, what you were just saying about that they wanted her to see him. That way they could be like, you told us you can get in and out clean.
Well, you didn't.
You were seen. Yeah. I do like that because, yeah, definitely it means that this organization sees these contract killers as expendable and that they can get someone else. And honestly, though, I would be upset because Jeff is pretty fucking cool. I would want him on my team all the
Yeah,
time.
he is super cool. Yeah. Yeah, and so I think that's why that she knew to not freak out at the police station. That's why she knew to say no. That's why she needs him to get on the phone call. Blah blah blah. Now, here's something I loved about the bugging was the process of them doing it. I loved that when they walked into the apartment complex, someone was in the hallway, and so they started walking up the stairs to the floor above until he was gone, and then they went back down. Again, always completely aware of their surroundings, so they don't draw suspicion. They don't seem to be where they're not supposed to be. Opening the door, seeing someone in the hallway, and then quickly closing it. Making sure to close the blinds for the lights, blah, 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 all that stuff. I eat that stuff up. I think it's so interesting and so fascinating to watch people be good at what they're doing and be very proficient at it. And they also did the key ring thing, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I also had to take that kind of with a grain of salt because, like you said, we live in the future. Bugging and wiretaps are more subtle now than hanging it up on a nail. But you're right. That was so cool that they were like, yeah, this will work. There's no way he'll look up here.
Yeah. And you know what?
Which
it'd work on me.
Well, and it kind of did work until, Jeff started using his deductive reasoning of like, why does she want me to call her? That doesn't make any sense. Why is my bird molting? Someone was in the apartment. There's a bug. And, he just, happened to find it. But yeah, and I love that we also get the trope of the police like giving the girlfriend like an out. Like, if you tell us where he's at, where he's going, you're good. Like, we're not gonna, get you with anything, even though she hadn't done anything wrong, but still. But I love that she is just like, no. And that's all she says that whole scene, which I love. No.
Yeah.
And then, and I love that she just slams the door in his face. like, no, I'm not going to give him up. Because, we have seen several movies, recently of, they go to the girlfriend, and she kind of gives him up. I meant to say this at the top of the show, but I just watched Catch Me If You Can for the first time ever in my life. And that happens in that movie where Frank, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, tells Amy Adams, who's his fiance, who he really is, kind of what he's been doing, but she gives him up to the FBI, and so he dips out of there. He's like, nope, I ain't getting caught.
Yeah, later.
Which may or may not have actually happened. Anyway, but I do love this kind of flip that she's her own person. She's not going to give him up, but she's also not going to give the police any information. I really like that too, man. Because I feel like a lot of crime thrillers or neo-noirs, they kind of see the love interest or a woman of influence as sort of kind of like loose lips, sink ships kind of thing, and I've never really liked that. And so I really liked that she was like, no, like, I'm not helping you. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Get out of my apartment. Especially because that guy swats her nightie away. Like, she's trying to get comfortable as they're barging into her apartment, and he swats it away. Like, get the fuck out. But anyway,
right.
I digress.
Yeah, another example, I think, of of sort of quasi action sequences, but that are filled with tension that really draw you in. And seemingly, it's not very action packed, but it is very thrilling. Is when they
Mm-hmm.
are um, in the subway line and they have
Mm-hmm.
those little indicators, and that he's watching on the map as it lights up anytime anyone signals that they're with him or they're I couldn't get enough of that. I could have watched an hour of that. I loved it. It was so exciting and it was so interesting, and I really liked the editing style of that. It was very similar to the editing of the men getting into Costello's apartment, which it was very sequential. It was very rhythmic and it was repetitive, which built the tension, which is
Mm-hmm.
key, lock, bird, window, key, lock, bird, window, key, lock, bird, window, and they would just keep doing that every time he would try a new key. Um, it felt very similar in this case with the subway line. And again, I just loved it.
Yeah,
I couldn't get enough of that.
yeah, and I love how this movie handles like tales. Like with last week's episode of Tales, we got to see sort of like the what it's like to have a mole inside the police trying to get Tails off of also someone named
Yeah.
Costello. Um, but I really liked how how they tail him and lose him in the subway line, and then they use that again for the scene you're talking about to tail him again, and it's just, dude, again, if we haven't said it enough, it's just so
Yeah.
cool. It's so cool. Um, now I'm not trying to like skip ahead to the
Okay.
end, but like I have a lot of questions about the
Sure.
end. Because again, it was really cool, but it left me with a lot of questions because it seemed like this was the first time we've seen Jeff's mask sort of fall a little bit. Where he goes back to the club
Mhm.
where the movie started essentially. So we're kind of bookending the film, and in front of everyone, he acts like he's going to shoot the pianist because he kind of knows that she's in cahoots with this syndicate.
Yeah.
And then he unfortunately gets killed by the police, shot in the back. But they see that his gun has no bullets in it. So, do you think it was like an intentional thing
Yes.
that he knew he wasn't going to make it out, and he needed to make sure that the cops kind of look back at her again?
Yes. So my reading of it was, my understanding is that he is protecting Jane in that moment. So he's trying to get Jane out of all of it. But he's also pointing suspicion at the pianist. Like, why is she being targeted? Um, what's so significant about her in all of this? And so he's thinking,
Mhm.
like, I'll just, this will be, my swan song or whatever. I'm gonna go in. I'm not gonna have any bullets, whatever, because she needs to live,
Mhm.
so they can point some suspicion at the pianist. And also, again, relinquishing Jane of all sort of suspicion as well.
Okay.
Now, I will say that I read that the original ending had Jeff sort of smiling a little bit as he died, but Melville saw that that actor had done that in another movie. He goes, "Well, fuck."
Yeah. Yeah. I read that too, and that apparently you can still find stills of that original ending, but yeah, that Jean-Pierre was just like,
Damn it!
well, we
Can't do it again.
can't do
Can't
that
do it.
now.
Someone's already done it with the same person. So
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a little confusing at first because he revisits his car guy, and so I must have looked away for just a second. So I thought that like he was going back to kill her because that was the new hit that they gave him. But then they set him up to get killed. But then after the movie ended, I'm like, but everything we've seen Jeff do up until this point has been very intentional and very methodically planned. So I was like, maybe he wanted to literally point a smoking gun at her. That way, maybe the cops can take down this syndicate, or at least put her in jail. Yeah. Okay. And see, and that's why we do this show. That's why we do the show. It has nothing to do with our love of film or anything like that. It's just, we need to answer these questions. Okay, yeah, because again, I had that thought for just a second, but I was like, I don't know, like, did they just set him up to fail, or what? But no, it makes sense that he wants Jane out of this because somewhere deep down he does care for her.
Yeah, there's some humanity in there. But of course, it doesn't come through with his work or anything.
Yeah. Well, and especially because she tells him, I like when you come to see me because you need me.
Yeah.
Because she knows you care about me, even if you don't want to admit it. You care about me.
Yeah, he can get an alibi anywhere. Which again, the process, man, of him establishing alibis, so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of glossed over that, but yeah, that was so cool that so after he gets his car, after he steals that car, gets new plates on it, he goes by Jane's and was like, and I love that he's got his watch on the underside of his wrist, so he's like, I got here at 7, I left at 2. And she was like, oh, well, they said that you would be arriving at 2. And he was like, okay, then I left at 1:45. And then he goes to his buddies and was like, all right, save me a spot. I've been here since, well, no, he was like, I'll be here at 2.
Yeah.
So essentially saying that there would only be a 15-minute window where he couldn't account for his whereabouts. And honestly, that's really good.
Yeah. Well, because then he went back to the apartment, made it to where it looked like he was leaving at 1:45. And then got there at 2, 2:15 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which was brilliant. It was genius because he needed another witness to see him there. Which is why that guy was like, yeah, I was, and he fucking puzzle pieced Jeff together, which is still funny.
Yeah. And I will say, I thought it was a little funny, like after the police take Jeff from the poker game, that other guy gets off the bed and just keeps playing.
Yeah, goes,
just takes his spot. Well, all right. Well, they took him. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. I want to talk about Jeff's look because we've talked about it a lot. His fedora definitely is his signature thing. Yeah. I guess you could say is his samurai sword. No, but like he looks really so cool. Like I don't mean to keep overusing that word, but he does really look cool. Yeah. I know we've done other films of contract killers, again, The Killer. And even though that movie also really cool and really great, Michael Fassbender is very convincing as a contract killer. He doesn't have like a distinct look, necessarily, as where Jeff has such a distinct look, a lot like, again, to use another modern term, like John Wick, Keanu Reeves, but Jeff's look is just so like,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know, man.
It blends in, but it stands out at the same time. I think that he looks like everyone else, but just a little bit different. He has this sort of aura around him that just, the way he wears his jacket or the way he puts his hat on or the way he walks and, one of the one of the eyewitnesses mentions his silhouette, and I think that's fair because he has a striking, cool silhouette with his clothing.
I would agree. I mean, that's why Criterion has him on the Blu-ray of him like from the side.
Yeah, his profile. Yeah.
Of course, if you get the 4K, it's the front of his face, but it's still really cool and it's still really striking. Everything about this movie, dude, it's just so cool.
Agreed.
And honestly, really refreshing too, to see kind of where a lot of these tropes in modern day contract killer films really have pulled inspiration from. Of
course.
I did read, definitely a future episode, that Jim Jarmusch used this movie as very heavily influence on Ghost Dog: Way of the Samurai, which I desperately want to see. Yep. I've got it on Criterion. Definitely a future episode. Definitely. So it is really interesting to see a lot of these tropes that became tropes where Jean-Pierre was just like, let's see how this would work.
Let's dial some stuff back. Let's, take away the action. Let's build the tension. Let's be methodical and precise. It's very, very cool. I mean, Cinefix nailed it. I mean, this is like the coolest movie ever. I loved it. Definitely will watch it again several times throughout my life.
Low-key, I asked Ashley if she wanted to watch it with me, and she was like, "What's it about again?" And I started telling her, and she's like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And then I said, "Well, it's a French film," and she goes, "Oh, never mind, you lost me."
Damn. Missing out.
Oh, and I looked this up because you mentioned it last week. You asked if this movie was a part of the French New Wave.
I think it's post.
It was considered a part of the French New Wave, but Jean-Pierre Melville was not a part of the French New Wave movement. So I think it may have been like on the cusp of the French New Wave.
Truffaut and Godard and those guys, and Melville, I guess wasn't a part of that. But someone said that Le Samurai is like post New Wave. It was sort of an in between.
That makes sense. I mean, I haven't seen many French New Wave films, or any, maybe, depending on which ones we've done for the podcast or not.
We have not.
But I know Breathless is on my wish list, that I want to see so badly. Was that part of the New Wave as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. But I know the French New Wave was such a influential part on cinema as a whole. So that's the only thing I do know about it. That it was a very influential time in filmmaking that has since carried over. But, well, buddy, with all that being said, are you ready to wrap up?
Highly recommend. It was so much fun. Did you watch this on 4K, by the way? Did you break out the 4K?
Of course I did.
Was it amazing? Did it just look great?
Of course it looked fantastic.
Yeah, I watched it on the Blu-ray, and it looked amazing, but I would assume that the 4K is just like boom, so striking.
It's on Max, but I'm sure it's just 1080p on Max. Here, let's see real quick. They'll usually say
some streaming service do stream in 4K. I mean, it's not like a true 4K. I think the disc is true 4K. So if you wanted, the full experience, or if it even matters to you at all, which it might not, and that's okay. The disc.
It doesn't say. But yeah, the disc is really cool. I mean, everyone, Jeremy and I will speak the praises of Criterion. Please, for the love of God, let us come be in the closet, for the love of God. Please. Jeremy will do many things for us to get into.
I mean, he's not wrong. So,
Oh, it's HD. Sorry, I'm on my Apple TV app, and it shows that it's just HD. So if you want to see it in 4K, get the Criterion. It's worth it. I found mine at Waterloo.
Oh, look at that! Oh, that's right.
I was so happy when I saw it. I was like, oh my god, it's the 4K. It even has a watermark.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, everyone. Yeah, the movie's phenomenal. I definitely will recommend it. Probably to mom, because usually when I recommend movies at work, as soon as I mention if it's a foreign language film, I see everyone's eyes kind of glaze over, and I'm just like they're good. Like all you have to do, you
just read.
You can read and watch the movie at the same time. Like you just relax your eyes. It's not hard. But yeah, definitely can't sing its praises enough. But with that being said, buddy, what are we going into next week?
We're doing another crime movie. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm just kidding. I was gonna be like, oh, okay, cool.
No, I'm just kidding. We'll take a break from crime for a while. No. Next week we're gonna lighten things up a little bit. Next week, your face is just gonna light up because I'm gonna tell you that next week we're doing a double feature, and then I only have one on there. So, next week we are doing Paul King's adaptations of Paddington and Paddington 2. Is what we're doing next week.
I'm so happy, dude. Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah. So I've never seen the first Paddington.
I haven't seen either of them.
I've seen 2. 2 is so funny. And there's a scene in it that's utterly devastating. But they're really good, and it definitely lives up to the line from Pedro Pascal, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, that it made me want to be a better man. And even Nick Cage agrees that Paddington 2 is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I just because the third one is coming out, which I've heard isn't as good, but who cares? The third one is coming out, and I just found out Ben Whishaw is the voice of Paddington. I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. A lot of very British cast. Well, of course, it's a British cast because it's Paul King is British and Paddington is
British.
A British story. But yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for the first one, and I was like, okay, I guess. And then when I heard that they did a sequel, I was like, really? Like, this movie did well enough for a sequel? And when I was working at AT&T, my buddy Quentin was like, trust me, Rain, it's really good. I was like, I guess, man. And yeah, 2, I'm really excited to watch 1. 2 is so fantastic.
I can't wait. I just know that it's gonna be so good. Like I can't wait. It's gonna be it'll be great. I'm really excited. It's gonna be really sweet and fun, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah, Paul King really knows how to make a film with those 2 words, sweet and fun. He just recently did, of course, Wonka, which I think is why he didn't do, because they have a different director for Paddington in Peru, which is the 3rd film. I think that's why he wasn't in with that one, because he was doing Wonka. But look, Wonka's also fantastic. I love Wonka so much. I think it's really funny. I think it's really sweet. Of course, our boy Timothée Chalamet just crushing it left and right.
Here's a fun fact. Yeah, so I was recently just a second ago just going through Paul King's credits because one caught my eye, and I go, what does that mean? And he directed 20 episodes of The Mighty Boosh.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's pretty
I really hope he directed the one that's Ashley and I's favorite, which is The Midnight Barber. That's awesome. Yeah, Paul King is so great.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited.
I'm expecting these to be very cute and sweet and you know, amazing. I expect them to be wonderful and like everyone says they are.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's a scene in 2. It's gonna wreck you, dude. Because I teared up.
Oh Jesus!
But they're great. They're great. I'm really excited. I'm really excited. And yeah, you know what? It's a good change of pace.
Yeah.
Because let's see. You know, we did Over the Garden Wall, which was kind of a change of pace, but you know, but then before that we did Men. Last week was The Departed. So this is a good kind of pause on some of the seriousness for a little bit and just have some fun.
Yeah, that's some fun.
Nice. Well, before we close out the show, everyone, so Paddington will be a lot like our Batman and Batman Returns episode. Right? Do you want to do them in one episode, or do you want to do 2
we're going to do them in one episode.
Okay. Yeah, so they're going to be in one episode, so that episode may be a little bit longer. I think our Batman Returns was like an hour and a half. I don't think it was that long, yeah. It wasn't like the longest one for sure. Oh, no. I don't think anything will top the broad subject of horror movies we did all the way back in season 1. Yeah. But anyway, well, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode on Le Samouraï, and we'll see you next week for Paddington and Paddington 2.